6 years after calling it the greatest trade deal in American history, Donald Trump is asking a different question. Why shouldn't I just walk away? This is the agreement he forced Canada and Mexico to renegotiate. The deal he threatened to rip up NAFTA to create. The deal he signed in the White House with cameras flashing. And now he's thinking about blowing it up. To understand why, you need to understand what USMCA actually is, why Trump created it in the first place, and what happens if he walks away. NAFTA was signed in 1994. It eliminated most tariffs between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It created the largest free trade zone in the world, and for 2 decades, it was the foundation of North American commerce. But NAFTA had problems. It was written before the internet existed. It had no rules for digital trade. It gave companies too much power to sue governments. And critics on both sides argued it had sent American manufacturing jobs to Mexico, where labor was cheaper. Trump made killing NAFTA a centerpiece of his 2016 campaign. He called it the worst trade deal ever made. He said it had gutted the American middle class. He promised to rip it up and start over. When he won, he did exactly that. The renegotiation took 2 years. Trump threatened to withdraw entirely if Canada and Mexico didn't agree to his terms. He imposed steel and aluminum tariffs to pressure them. He called Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau weak and dishonest. In the end, he got most of what he wanted. USMCA kept the basic structure of NAFTA, but added new rules. It required that 75% of auto content be made in North America, up from 62% under NAFTA. It required that 40 to 45% of auto content be made by workers earning at least $16 an hour. It opened up Canada's dairy market to American farmers. It added new protections for digital trade and intellectual property. Trump signed it in January 2020. He held a massive ceremony. He handed out pens to Republican lawmakers. He declared victory. The USMCA is the fairest, most balanced, and beneficial trade agreement we have ever signed into law, he said. That was 6 years ago. Today, nearly $2 trillion in goods and services flow between the 3 countries every year. Mexico has become America's largest trading partner, surpassing China. Canada is second. The North American economy is more integrated than ever, and Donald Trump wants to blow it up. The USMCA has a unique provision that no other trade deal has. Every 6 years, the 3 countries must review the agreement and decide whether to extend it. If all 3 agree, it continues for another 16 years. If they don't, the agreement enters a period of annual reviews and eventual expiration. The first review deadline is July 1st, 2026, less than 5 months away. For years, trade experts assumed this would be a formality. The agreement was working. Trade was growing. All 3 countries were benefiting. Why would anyone want to change it? Then Trump came back. From the moment he returned to office, Trump has been at war with America's neighbors. He imposed 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods, citing fentanyl and immigration as national emergencies. He threatened 100% tariffs on Canada if they made any trade deal with China. He said he would block a $5 billion bridge that Canada had already built and paid for. He accused Canada of treating the United States unfairly. He accused Mexico of allowing drugs and migrants to pour across the border. He said both countries had taken advantage of America for decades, and he made clear that the USMCA, the deal he once celebrated, was now on the chopping block. His trade representative, Jamieson Greer, told Congress in December that a rubber stamp of the 2019 terms was not in the national interest. He said the administration intended to seek major changes. He listed grievances with how Canada and Mexico had implemented the agreement. He warned that withdrawal was on the table. Then came the Bloomberg report. On February 11th, 2026, Bloomberg reported that Trump was privately musing about exiting the agreement entirely. He had asked his aides why he shouldn't just withdraw. He questioned whether the deal served American interests. He suggested that bilateral agreements with each country might be better than a trilateral deal. The report sent shockwaves through the business community. The stock market wobbled. Canadian and Mexican officials scrambled to respond. Trade lawyers began advising clients to prepare for the worst. Because if Trump withdraws, everything changes. Under the agreement, any country can leave with 6 months' notice. If the United States withdraws, the deal doesn't automatically end for Canada and Mexico. They could continue trading under USMCA terms with each other, but their trade with America would face a completely different reality. Right now, most goods that comply with USMCA rules are exempt from Trump's tariffs. That exemption covers over 85% of trade between the countries. Cars, auto parts, agricultural products, manufactured goods, all flowing across the border with minimal friction. If Trump withdraws, that exemption disappears. Every product would face the full weight of whatever tariffs Trump decides to impose. The 25% levies he has already announced would apply to everything. Supply chains that have been built over 30 years would be thrown into chaos. The auto industry would be hit hardest. A single car crosses the border multiple times during production. Parts are made in Mexico, shipped to Canada for assembly, sent to the United States for finishing, then exported back to Canada or Mexico for sale. The supply chain is so integrated that separating it would be nearly impossible. General Motors, Ford, Stellantis, all of them have warned that tariffs without USMCA would devastate their operations. Prices would rise, production would slow, jobs would be lost on all three sides of the border, and that's just autos. Agricultural exports would face new barriers. American farmers sell billions in corn, soybeans, and wheat to Mexico. Canadian farmers sell billions in cattle, pork, and grains to the United States. All of that trade depends on the agreement. Energy would be disrupted. Canada supplies 60% of American oil imports. The pipelines, the refineries, the contracts, all built around the assumption that USMCA would continue. The economic modeling is clear. Withdrawal would cost hundreds of billions in lost trade. It would raise prices for American consumers. It would eliminate jobs in manufacturing, agriculture, and energy. It would make North America poor. So why would Trump even consider it? The answer is leverage. Trump does not think like a traditional politician. He thinks like a deal maker. And to a deal maker, an existing agreement is not an asset. It's a constraint. As long as USMCA exists, Canada and Mexico have certainty. They know the rules. They can plan their investments. They can build their supply chains. They have stability. Trump wants to take that away. By threatening withdrawal, he gains negotiating power. He can demand concessions on issues that have nothing to do with trade, immigration, fentanyl, China, Greenland. Whatever he wants to talk about, the threat of economic devastation gives him leverage. He did this in his first term. He threatened to withdraw from NAFTA repeatedly during the renegotiation. He used the threat to extract concessions. He got a better deal, at least by his definition. Now he's doing it again, but the stakes are higher, the relationships are worse, and the deadline is real. July 1st, 2026, less than 5 months away. If Trump does not agree to extend the agreement, it enters a new phase. Annual reviews, constant uncertainty, the slow death of North American free trade. Canada and Mexico are preparing for that possibility. They are diversifying their trade relationships. Canada has signed deals with the European Union, with Asian countries, even with China. Mexico is courting investment from Europe and Asia. Both countries are trying to reduce their dependence on the United States. But the reality is brutal. Geography is destiny. The United States is right there. No trade deal with Europe or Asia can replace the $2 trillion that flows across North American borders every year. If Trump walks away, everyone loses, including America. The question is whether he cares. Trump has never been afraid to burn something down to get what he wants. In his first term, he threatened to leave NATO. He threatened to abandon South Korea. He threatened to withdraw from the World Trade Organization. Each time, the threats brought allies to the table. Each time, he extracted something in return. But USMCA is different. This is not an alliance he inherited. This is not a deal someone else made. This is his deal, his signature, his legacy, and he is threatening to destroy it. The official White House position is that nothing has been decided. A spokesperson told reporters that Trump is the ultimate decision maker. The spokesperson told reporters that Trump is the ultimate decision maker and someone always seeking a better deal for the American people. Discussion about potential action amounted to baseless speculation before an announcement from the president. But the signals are everywhere. In January, Trump visited a Ford factory in Dearborn, Michigan. A reporter asked him about USMCA. His answer was dismissive. There's no real advantage to it, he said. It's irrelevant. We don't need cars made in Canada. This was not a throwaway line. This was the President of the United States, standing in the heart of American auto manufacturing, saying that the trade agreement governing that industry was worthless. A week later, he went further. He accused Canada and Mexico of making great deals with the United States and taking advantage of American workers. He said he would read these agreements at night and wonder who would ever sign a thing like this. He was talking about his own agreement, the one he signed, the one he celebrated. Something has changed. Part of it is Carney. Mark Carney became Prime Minister of Canada after Justin Trudeau resigned. Unlike Trudeau, who tried to maintain friendly relations with Trump even when tensions ran high, Carney has taken a different approach. At Davos in January, Carney gave a speech that infuriated the White House. He said the world had entered an era of great power rivalry. He said smaller countries could no longer count on protection from larger ones. He encouraged middle powers to band together and build strategic autonomy. Trump took it as a direct attack. The next day, he posted that Canada lives because of the United States. He revoked Carney's invitation to a summit. He threatened 100% tariffs. The relationship has not recovered. But Carney is not the only reason Trump is reconsidering USMCA. There's a deeper logic at work. Trump believes in bilateral deals, not multilateral ones. He has said this repeatedly. When you negotiate with one country at a time, you have maximum leverage. When you negotiate with multiple countries together, they can gang up on you. USMCA is a trilateral agreement. The United States, Canada, and Mexico are bound together. If Trump wants to punish Canada without hurting Mexico, he cannot do it cleanly. The agreement treats them as a package. By withdrawing from USMCA, Trump could negotiate separate deals with each country. He could play them against each other. He could give Mexico better terms to pressure Canada. He could threaten Canada with total exclusion while keeping Mexico close. Divide and conquer. It's classic Trump. The problem is that it might not work. Canada and Mexico have learned from the first term. They know Trump's tactics. They have prepared. Canada has spent the last year diversifying its trade relationships. It signed a deal with the European Union called CETA, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. It joined the CPTPP, the Trans-Pacific Trade Bloc that includes Japan, Australia, and Vietnam, even made a limited deal with China on electric vehicles and agricultural products. Carney has made clear that Canada will not be dependent on American goodwill. He has talked about building strategic autonomy in energy, food, and critical minerals. He has doubled defense spending. He has positioned Canada as a country that can survive without the United States if necessary. Mexico has done the same. President Claudia Sheinbaum has maintained a careful balance with Trump, avoiding direct confrontation while quietly building relationships elsewhere. Mexico has courted European investment. It has strengthened ties with Latin American neighbors. It has made clear that it has options. Neither country wants to lose access to the American market, but neither country will beg. If Trump withdraws from USMCA, he will not face two desperate nations ready to accept whatever terms he offers. He will face two prepared nations with backup plans and domestic political pressure to stand firm. The negotiations could drag on for years. The uncertainty would devastate business investment. The economic damage would compound. And there's another factor Trump may not have considered: Congress. The Constitution gives Congress the power to regulate international commerce. When Trump signed USMCA, Congress had to ratify it. The House and Senate both voted to approve the deal. It became law through the legislative process. Can Trump unilaterally withdraw from an agreement that Congress ratified? The legal answer is unclear. Some scholars say yes, the president has broad authority over foreign affairs. Others say no, Congress must approve withdrawal from trade agreements it approved in the first place. If Trump tries to withdraw, he could face a legal challenge. Members of Congress could sue. The courts could intervene. The withdrawal could be blocked or delayed. This is not hypothetical. It is already happening with tariffs. The Supreme Court heard arguments in November about whether Trump has the authority to impose tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The justices appeared skeptical. A ruling is expected before summer. If the court rules against Trump on tariffs, it would signal that his trade authority has limits. It would embolden Congress to challenge a USMCA withdrawal. It would create a constitutional crisis over who controls American trade policy. Trump might not care. He has defied courts before. He has ignored congressional opposition before. He believes the president has nearly unlimited power in foreign affairs. But the business community cares. Investors care. The companies that have built their operations around USMCA certainty care. Every day of uncertainty costs money. Every threat of withdrawal freezes investment. Every angry tweet sends executives scrambling to revise their plans. This is the hidden cost of Trump's negotiating style. Even if he never actually withdraws, the threat itself causes damage. Companies cannot plan. Workers cannot feel secure. The economy suffers from the chaos alone, and the deadline is approaching. July 1st, 2026. The first mandatory review of USMCA. If all three countries agree to extend, the deal continues for 16 more years with another review in 2032. Stability, certainty, continued integration. If any country refuses to extend, the agreement enters annual reviews. Every year, the threat of expiration hangs over the economy. Every year, businesses face uncertainty. Every year, the pressure builds. If any country withdraws, 6 months later the agreement ends for that country. The free trade zone fractures. 3 decades of integration begin to unravel. Trump has not said what he will do. His advisors have not said what they recommend. The White House has not released a strategy. All we have are signals, dismissive comments about the deal's value, private questions about withdrawal, angry threats at Canada and Mexico, a trade representative who says the status quo is unacceptable. The betting markets say Trump will probably extend the agreement with modifications. He will use the threat of withdrawal to extract concessions, then declare victory and sign. That is what he did in his first term. That is his pattern. But Trump is not predictable. He has surprised everyone before. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement when advisors told him not to. He pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal when allies begged him to stay. He pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership on his third day in office. He is capable of walking away from anything. The next 5 months will determine the future of North American trade. $2 trillion in commerce, millions of jobs, 30 years of economic integration. All of it depends on what Donald Trump decides. He built this deal. He signed it. He celebrated it. Now he holds a match and stands over everything he created. The question is whether he will light it. In 2020, Trump called USMCA the best trade agreement in American history. In 2026, he says it's irrelevant. One of those statements is true. The next 5 months will tell us which one.